In this video, I'm going to show you how to keep Ashe permanently invisible without a companion or an arcane and still be able to use abilities to nuke and have a better kill ratio than using his fourth ability. What's good, folks? It's KnightmareFrame here with a new Warframe video, bringing an old build back to life with new toys. A lot of Warframes got a rework to their Exalted weapon, and some were great, some didn't really change much, but others felt like they got dealt a bad hand. And one of them is Ashe. Now some people might argue and say, but I'm doing a lot of damage with his fourth ability. Yes, you are, but you have to know the difference between damage per screenshot and actual time to kill and kills per minute values. For those who actually used and built Ashe for his shadow clones will know it does really suffer, especially for how strong it can be and still having such a big weakness. If you give Ashe a gun or a basic melee build, he'll end up killing way more and faster than his shadow clones, because his fourth ability needs to be activated, mark enemies, and wait for the clones to kill each individual target. And unfortunately, you just sit there waiting for it to happen, pretty much slowing you down. The thing is, this type of setup will suffer in faster missions. It is definitely fun to see bigger numbers, but will lack the clear speed that will benefit the current state of the game. But we can still do a finisher setup that has AoE and decent clear, and surprisingly better TTK and KPM. The synergy is simple, and it's using the Innodem, Mark for Death, and his reworked third ability Augment. Mark for Death will mark an enemy, and that target will be a catalyst for an AoE damage spread. Upon killing the marked target with any instance of damage, it will spread a portion of that damage to nearby enemies within direct line of sight, and the damage spread percentage is capped at 150%. The target you mark does matter. Try to go for healthier and beefier targets, as their health pool is important for the damage spread, because the damage cannot exceed the target's remaining health. So a dying or weaker enemy will not be able to fully take and spread the damage. And debuffs like Viral is an essential damage multiplier to help deal a lot of damage, because this build utilizes finishers. And finishers deal damage to the health, and Viral makes health take more damage. Although I won't be the one applying Viral, that will be my Panzer Volpophyla. And unfortunately for him, I had to nerf his damage, because the Panzer just kills enemies or lowers them to the point where the damage from Mark for Death won't spread. The Innodem is going to be the perfect vessel for this finisher setup, as it's a dagger and an incarnate that has specialized perks that benefit finishers. And daggers have pretty good finisher multipliers and additional finisher mods. And yes, I did definitely try the Magistar the Fragor, but the Innodem just felt way better and smoother and more practical. Alright, let's go over the build. Alright, here we are in our favorite simulacrum to show you how this build works. Our Panzer is going to be very aggressive, priming everyone. With Viral, gonna go invisible with a second ability. Have a look at the timer counting down. Now we're gonna mark a target, a beefier target. Finisher, boom, things die. But of course, that guy wasn't the most beefiest target. We definitely want to go after the corrupted heavy gunners. Now have a look at the difference when we target the heavy gunners. Everything else dies because they were the healthiest target. I wasn't even invisible there, but you get my point. They're the healthiest target, and that's why the damage was spread even better. So if we target something like the Butcher here, we're not going to do that much damage. Hopefully our Panzer primes them with Viral a little bit. There we go. See? That's why you always got to make sure to have that Viral on enemies. That's your big ticket for big damage. We got Viral there. Boom. Oh, one guy survived. How awkward. Anyway, let's go over this loadout. Yes, you're going to see a weird assortment of colors on our Archon Shard loadout, but it's there for a reason. Now, we have 2 crit damage shards here. This is to give us, of course, crit damage on our melee, and it's doubled if our energy is over 500. Have a look, we're over 500 energy. Ash doesn't have a great energy pool, so I definitely have to run Prime Flow and 1 blue shard here just to take me over that threshold. I do have casting speed here just to make things a lot easier, but to be honest, you can run with 1 casting speed shard or none, but then you'd have to run Matterizer Focus School because the abilities do have a slight delay. And for this setup, I don't want any delay. The Helminth is of course marked for death. The cap is 150% damage, and it's not a 1-to-1 scaling. As you can see, our strength there, this is not our only strength modifier. We have multiple strength modifiers on this build. So let's take a look at this so-called build. For the arcanes, I have Arcane Fury for that 180% melee damage when I land a critical hit. And this is pretty consistent. Arcane Crepulsar gives us critical damage. This is a 3 times final critical damage and a 30% increase to our strength. On top of that increase to strength, I'll also be running Transient Fortitude. This is mostly to boost the finisher damage multiplier on my teleport. As you can see, we're at 310%. I'm also going to be getting more finisher damage multiplier from my melee weapon. We have Archon Stretch here. This is easily triggered thanks to our Panzerful Phyla. And Augur Reach. This is my main range modifier for Mark for Death. You can go a bit higher running Overextended here, but then you'll have to min-max your strength running Blind Rage. And in that case, you'll be at negative efficiency. So you'll have to use something like Fleeting Expertise. But then you'll be asking, but our duration will drop pretty low. That's fine because of the third ability augment. This refunds you a portion of the duration, and you can remain invisible permanently. So it depends how you want to play. This, for me, is way more comfortable than the other method. Without Precision Intensify, Marked for Death will not be at its max damage. So this is why we're using this mod, and we placed Marked for Death on the 4th ability slot. Our main damaging weapon is, of course, going to be the Innodem. Taking a look at the evolutions, number 2 will give us 25% attack speed. For those who don't know, finishers have an animation cap of 50%. That means any other forms of attack speed modifiers will not affect the finisher speed, and we'll be maxing out the attack speed for our finishers. And that means this evolution is required. Evolution 3, we get the finisher damage. 4, we get combo on finisher, which is really nice. This easily maintains our combo. Then finally, for some utility, when you perform a finisher, you stun aware enemies within a 10-meter radius. We're not going to be using heavy attacks, so not really needed. And this is decent if you want, but we're not going to be shooting anything, so we won't be losing any ammo. So the final evolution was just like, you know what, let's just use this one because the other two just didn't do anything for us. So let's have a look at this Innodem build. Melee exposure for the corrosive elemental damage. This stacks up to 240%, and it activates when we cast an ability. All I'll be using are abilities, Mark for Death and Teleport. And I will be adding additional elemental damage here because we want to have elemental damage. It's always good to add elemental damage for these types of setups. Base damage, crit chance, and attack speed. 30% plus 25%, we're sorted. This is crit chance and crit damage. We have finisher damage here and initial combo alongside additional finisher damage. And if you're fighting a specific faction, well, you put your faction damage mod. However, you know, if you want to take it easy, you don't want to have to worry about faction damage, you can completely scrap this for anything else. Adding another elemental mod or adding more critical damage. And now, are the guns mandatory in any way? No, they're just here for utility. The Miter, if you're up against any type of nullifier, you have Neutralizing Justice. Amalgam Serration here, very good if you're using a rifle because it gives you 25% sprint speed, and the Arcane Dexterity for the combo duration. We're going to have this on both our primary and secondary weapon. Dexterity, as you can see, and we also have Amalgam Burial Fusion, so we have faster dodge rolls. All this for great movement, great utility, and just comfort. Finally, our bestest of boys, we have Reginald here. This is the Panzer. All he's going to be doing is supplying us with additional critical damage and spreading viral for us. And on the weapon, make sure to remove Maul, because when I had this mod on, Panzer was just killing the enemies, and he didn't leave anyone for me to spread my Mark for Death damage. But you want to have Bite here so you can actually go over 50% crit chance so your Tenacious Bond can be active. Otherwise, make sure you have Shocking Claws so you can activate Archon Stretch on your build, and that's it. Everything else is just utility. You're not going to be seeing crazy giga damage numbers like you'll be seeing with his 4th ability, but this is quite consistent because it's a one-button press. Everything dies. And for Xmas, you just need to have 1 tick of viral, and that's about it. And that is way faster than sitting there and waiting for your clones to finish off the enemies. Anyway, folks, that has been it from this video. I do hope you enjoyed and learned something from it, and if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do it for the description. Thanks for watching. As always, peace. Bye-bye now.